What's happening, you guys? Veggie here. We're on the third week of vegan shredding. It's going pretty good. Now for this week, I'm actually not going to go through MyFitnessPal. I'm going to shove a link on the screen so you can see exactly what I'm eating every single day, sharing MyFitnessPal diary that I keep to track and update it so you guys can track, you can follow me, you can kind of have the same kind of foods as I'm having. But at the moment, I'm not going to lie, week 3 was a struggle on 2,400 calories. I've been finding it very hard to exercise. I've been having fatigue during my workouts, but I've been maintaining a good chunk of my strength. So I've been losing about 5 to 10 kilos on bench. You know, I've lost well over 10 kilos on squats, about 10, 15 kilos on squats. Deadlifts, I'm actually maintained quite well. I've only lost about 10 kilos on deadlifts. But I imagine that's going to dip down to 10 to 20, and because I want to make sure I don't injure myself. I want to make sure I'm not jeopardizing my form, and that's what you guys need to do as well. As you hit fatigue, make sure you're not maintaining too much strength, because as soon as you try and keep those numbers and you just don't have the energy to do it, you're going to jeopardize your form and you're going to injure yourself, and then you're going to regret it because you're going to suffer from either temporary or permanent injury. So be careful, you guys, especially with deadlifts. If you need to, just drop 10 kilos on the deadlift, leave your ego at the door. It's as simple as that. Now, I want to give some advice for people struggling with fat loss, just like I am, because we all struggle when it comes to fat loss. It's a discipline thing. So in terms of building discipline, if you want to build discipline for fat loss and stay, stick to it, if you want to stick to it, it really helps to have other ways in life in which you're disciplined. Because in my mind, discipline goes in one straight line. So because I'm disciplined at the gym, because I'm disciplined, because sometimes I meditate, because sometimes I run 4 or 5 times a week, all these things add up in terms of how you can have that discipline in your mind, how you can say no to eating shit food, and how you can really stay focused. Even vegans can eat shit food, believe it or not. Last weekend, we actually made vegan brownies, and I kind of felt bad. But at the same time, most of the week I was healthy, and it was kind of a one-off, right? One day where I'm going to have an unhealthy vegan dessert. Moving on, though, don't try and do that. Stay as focused as you can. Stay to eating fruit, a few portions of fruit. You don't want to go overboard. Make sure you're not having too much sugar, because when it comes to fat loss, more of a focus is on protein, which I'm going to go through in a bit. So have a few portions of fruit, top up on loads of veg. I myself, if you've seen from my MyFitnessPal diary from the previous 2 weeks, I stock up on loads of kidney beans, chickpeas, kale, spinach, chia seeds, omega seeds mix. I'm going to go through a smoothie you guys can make every single day, which will help you reduce fatigue, and in general, it just brings your energy levels up. So I highly recommend you guys top up on loads of veg. Make sure it's fit within your calories, of course. Don't be stupid and leave these things out of MyFitnessPal. You're lying. And just make sure you track everything you eat. That's the most important thing. So fruit, veg, you want to have a bit of nuts, because nuts is also packed with protein. So what I typically do every single day, I have about 1 to 2 tablespoons of crunchy peanut butter. Now, you guys can have your own portion of nuts, peanuts, cashew nuts, almond nuts. Just make sure you fit it within your calories and don't go too overboard. You don't want too much fat. Like I said, most of the focus is going to be actually on substituting some of those carbohydrates for protein. But obviously, you do need carbs for fat loss. I personally believe you need carbs for fat loss. It helps so much. So make sure you do get a good amount of carbs. Now, in terms of carbs, you can have whole grain. So for breakfast, just make sure you're having oats or Weetabix, whole grain foods. Don't go overboard with wheat. You don't have too much gluten. I don't think that's a good thing. So have a mix, So maybe in the breakfast you have oats, Quaker's oats, and maybe your pre-workout meal is something like Weetabix or whole grain rice. But you want to have a mix in terms of carbohydrates, because it's always a bad thing to have too much of something. Now we step into the real part. Now in terms of protein, in my I've got a video lined up. I don't know if it's going to be before this one, but basically it's a vegan blend. So I've got it here actually. So vegan blend is actually great if you guys need a quick top up of protein to rebalance those macronutrients, to make sure that you're having more protein and dropping your carbs, right? Because that's the most important thing. I stick to around 100 to 120 grams of protein a day when I'm on fat loss, and obviously at least 250 carbs, and my fat will be about 60, right? Just make sure you're getting a good amount of protein. In terms of protein sources as a vegan, you guys can find edamame, soybeans. I have a lot of those. You can get it from your sources of carbohydrates, such as legumes, red kidney beans, chickpeas. You'll find it in there as well if you put those in your meal. Even though it's more carbs, you're still getting some protein from there. You can get high protein bread, which is pretty good because it's got seeds in there, like a mega seed mix. Brilliant source of protein. Like I mentioned before, nuts are great sources of protein. So peanut butter, almond, cashew nuts. Just top up on handfuls of them. Make sure you don't go too overboard, like I said, because they have more fat in them than protein. Other sources of good protein is a hemp protein, which is what that is, pea protein. So basically legumes, right? Peas, legumes, nuts. It's also in vegetables as well. Spirulina. Spinach has very small amount, right? But it all adds up. That's the most important thing. Protein adds up, you guys. I think that's the most important thing to understand as vegan. Because you can't, it's hard for you to get a good protein source as a vegan that doesn't have carbohydrates or fat. So you just got to think in your head, it adds up. If I'm having it in my kidney beans, if I'm having it in my chickpeas, it's going to add up to the amount I need. And you guys can see my diary and see that in practice for yourselves. Now, if you really, really, really struggle and you're like, Veggie, I'm really struggling here, these natural sources just aren't enough. The occasional Alpro soya yogurt pot is really good. So it's 20 grams of protein. It's about that big, right? It's about 250 calories. I go through the whole thing like it's nothing with a bit of fruit. It's brilliant for a dessert as well, by the way. So it's 20 grams of protein in that, 200 calories, pretty decent. 250 calories, so pretty decent source of protein, but it's processed, of course, which is why I say have it as the rare occasion for when you struggle. Another good source, if you really, really struggle and you're like, Veggie, I'm struggling this day, I can't have my vegan blend, you know, I ordered it too late. Instead, you can buy some processed meat-free substitutes. Now, I don't recommend this on a common basis because I think processed foods are bad, even though I've had them since I was 12 years old. I think that having too much processed food is a bad thing because you don't know what they're adding to it. You look in the ingredients, there's always something that is a detriment to your health in the long term, right? But if you do struggle that day, have vegan Linda McCartney sausages. They're called vegetarian, but if you actually look on the box, it says vegan. It kind of sucks they're called vegetarian, right? Because when I saw that, I was like, I'm not having it then because it's not vegan. But then I was told by someone, oh no, look on the packaging, it says it's vegan. Then I was like, cool. That'll be my day off when I can't get my natural sources of protein, right? I'll just have that. But that's the main focus of this video, you guys. So studies actually show that even if you have the same amount of calories, if you redistribute some of those carbohydrates for protein, you're actually more likely to lose more weight. Because of course, protein actually does also contain a hormone, which suppresses your appetite. So you're also more likely to stay disciplined by substituting some of those carbohydrates for protein. But don't go overboard. Make sure you're getting a good amount of protein, carbohydrates, and fat. You don't want to have too little carbohydrates because then you'll struggle to maintain your strength in your workouts and you'll be jeopardizing muscle mass. Anyway, guys, I think I've covered a fair amount in this video in terms of good fat loss advice, in terms of suppressing appetite, maintaining discipline, good sources of protein, and staying hydrated. I've covered so much, I'm probably going to struggle next week, right? Anyway, guys, I'll see you in that next video. Like I said, look up my MyFitnessPal diary, follow me on MyFitnessPal, see what I'm eating, maybe copy some things, maybe I'll give you some good pointers on there in terms of what you can eat and sources of protein, carbs, and fat. See you in that next video.